Admiral Kexter stood on the bridge of his massive warship and looked down at the blue planet below. Earth looked so small and weak from space. The humans living there had no idea what was about to happen to them. The Zephrian Galactic Empire had been the strongest force in the galaxy for over 3,000 years. They controlled 10,000 star systems and ruled over hundreds of different alien species. Their technology was advanced beyond anything most worlds could imagine. Their military had never lost a major war. Admiral called out his second-in-command, Commander Veltar. Our scouts have finished studying the human defenses. They are even weaker than we thought. Kexter nodded. The humans had primitive weapons that used chemical explosives. Their spaceships could barely leave their own planet. They had no energy shields, no plasma weapons, and no faster-than-light communication. Fighting them would be like fighting children with wooden sticks. Begin the invasion. Kexter ordered. The Imperial fleet moved toward Earth. Massive gray ships blocked out the sun over major human cities. The humans tried to fight back, but their missiles bounced harmlessly off Zephrian shields. Their fighter jets were destroyed before they could even get close to the alien ships within 3 days. Every major human military base was captured or destroyed. The human governments had no choice but to surrender. Kexter met with human leaders in what used to be called the United Nations building in New York. The human representatives looked scared but tried to hide it. The lead negotiator was a woman named Dr. Elena Vasquez. She was small and wore simple glasses. She did not look like a military leader or a politician. Kexter thought she looked more like a teacher. "We accept your terms," Dr. Vasquez said quietly. "Humanity will become part of your empire. We will provide raw materials and workers as you have requested. We only ask that you treat our people fairly." Kexter was surprised. Most species fought much longer before giving up. The humans seemed to understand they had no chance and were being smart about it. This would make his job easier. "Your species will be treated well if you cooperate," Kexter told her. "The Empire has rules about how conquered worlds are managed. Follow our laws and provide what we need, and your people will be safe." Dr. Vasquez nodded. "We understand. We are practical people. We know when we are beaten." Over the next few months, the humans proved to be model subjects. They worked hard in the mines that the Empire set up on Earth. They grew food on farming worlds that the Empire gave them. They built factories to make simple goods that other Empire worlds needed. The humans asked many questions about Zephrian technology. They wanted to learn how Imperial computers worked. They were curious about Zephrian energy systems and weapons. They asked about faster-than-light travel and communication systems. Kexter thought their curiosity was natural. Primitive species always wanted to understand advanced technology when they first saw it. The humans seemed especially smart for such a weak race. He decided to give them access to basic Imperial technology. It would help them work better for the Empire. Dr. Vasquez often came to meet with Imperial administrators. She was always polite and helpful. She translated between human workers and their Zephrian supervisors. She solved problems when humans did not understand Imperial orders. She made sure human workers were fed and housed properly. "Your species adapts well," Kexter told her during one of their meetings. "Some races take decades to accept Imperial rule. Humans have done it in less than a year. We are survivors," Dr. Vasquez replied with a small smile. "We learn quickly when we need to." What Kexter did not know was that Dr. Vasquez was not just a translator and administrator. She was actually a brilliant scientist who had been chosen to lead a secret human resistance council. While the Empire thought humans were simply good workers, they were actually studying everything about their conquerors in hidden laboratories deep underground. Human scientists took apart every piece of Imperial technology they could get their hands on. They studied Zephrian computer codes. They learned how Imperial energy weapons worked. They figured out the secrets of faster-than-light, communication, and travel. The humans had a plan that would take many years to complete. They would pretend to be weak and cooperative while secretly becoming stronger. They would learn everything about the Empire, while the Empire learned nothing important about them. Dr. Vasquez met regularly with other human leaders in secret. They used hidden communication networks to coordinate their work across dozens of worlds where humans had been sent to work for the Empire. "How long do you think we can keep this up?" asked Dr. James Chun, one of the lead researchers working on reverse engineering Imperial technology. "As long as we need to," Dr. Vasquez replied. "They think we are simple and weak. That gives us a huge advantage. They will never suspect what we are really doing until it is too late." The humans had one major advantage that the Empire did not know about. Human brains were much more advanced than they appeared. For millions of years, most human mental abilities had been locked away by their own genetics. Only a tiny fraction of human potential was normally active. But human scientists had been studying their own biology for decades before the Empire arrived. They had learned how to unlock some of these hidden abilities. They could make humans smarter, faster, and stronger. They could give humans abilities that would seem impossible to other species. The Empire had conquered what they thought was a weak, primitive race. In reality, they had invited their future masters to spread across the galaxy and learn all of their secrets. As months turned to years, humans worked quietly on thousands of Imperial worlds. They mined valuable metals, grew food, and built simple machines. To their Zephrian supervisors, they seemed like perfect workers, smart enough to be useful, but not smart enough to be dangerous. Admiral Kexter was proud of how well the human conquest had gone. It was one of the easiest victories in Imperial history. He had no idea that he had just made the biggest mistake of his very long life. Commander Zalkith sat at her desk reading reports that made no sense. As the intelligence officer for the human territories, she was supposed to keep track of everything the humans were doing. For the past 2 years, that had been easy. The humans worked hard, followed orders, and caused no trouble. But lately, something was wrong. The first strange report came from Mining Station 7 on Kepler 442b. The human workers there were supposed to extract rare metals from deep underground. According to the station commander, they were producing 3 times more metal than should be possible with their equipment. How are they doing this? Zalkith had asked the station commander during a video call. The Zephrian officer shrugged. The humans say they found better mining techniques. They work very hard. I do not question success. But Zalkith did question it. She pulled up the technical specifications for the mining equipment. Even working 24 hours a day, the machines could not extract that much metal. It was physically impossible. The second report came from Agricultural World 15. The human farmers. They were growing enough food to feed twice as many people as lived on the planet. The energy readings from their farms also showed power usage that was much higher than their equipment should need. Zalkith called Dr. Vasquez to ask about it. The human woman appeared on her screen, looking tired but friendly. "Oh, that is easy to explain," Dr. Vasquez said with a smile. "Humans have been farmers for thousands of years. We know many old techniques that work better than modern methods sometimes. We also work longer hours than most species." It was a reasonable explanation, but something about it bothered Zalkith. She could not figure out what. The third report was the most disturbing. Security footage from Imperial Research Station Beta 7 showed human maintenance workers in restricted areas where they were not supposed to be. When questioned, the humans had no memory of being in those areas. They seemed genuinely confused. Perhaps they got lost? Suggested their supervisor, a Zephrian scientist named Dr. Kolvex. The station is very large. Humans are still learning their way around. But the security footage showed the humans walking directly to specific locations, as if they knew exactly where they were going. They did not look lost. They looked like they belonged there. Zalkith decided to investigate personally. She traveled to Human Colony World 23, which was supposed to be a simple construction project. The humans were building housing and basic facilities for future Imperial use. When she arrived, everything looked normal. Human workers operated construction machines, built roads, and assembled buildings. They were polite and helpful when she questioned them. Their work was high quality and ahead of schedule, but Zalkith had been an intelligence officer for 60 years. She knew how to spot things that others missed. The construction site had too many deep excavations for simple building foundations. The power cables being installed could carry much more electricity than the planned buildings would need. The communications equipment was more advanced than humans should have access to. "What are you building down there?" she asked the construction foreman, a human named Mike Rodriguez. "Storage areas," Mike replied cheerfully. "The Imperial planning documents said you might need underground storage for equipment and supplies." Zalkith pulled up the planning documents on her tablet. They did mention underground storage, but only small areas. What the humans were building looked much larger. "Can I see these underground areas?" she asked. "Of course," Mike said, "though most of them are not finished yet. Just empty rooms and tunnels right now." He led her down into the excavations. They were indeed mostly empty, just carved rock chambers and metal support beams. But Zalkith noticed that the walls were very smooth, as if they had been cut with advanced energy tools. The support beams were stronger than they needed to be for simple storage. "How did you cut these walls so precisely?" she asked. Mike looked confused. "We used the mining equipment you gave us. Same tools we use at the surface." But Zalkith had seen the mining equipment at the surface. It was designed for rough excavation, not precision cutting. Something was not right. She returned to her ship and sent a priority message to Imperial Command. She requested permission to conduct detailed inspections of all human facilities. The response came back 3 days later. Her request was denied. The message said that human productivity was too valuable to disrupt with unnecessary inspections. As long as humans met their quotas and caused no trouble, they should be left alone. Zalkith was frustrated, but she followed orders. However, she kept watching. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Vasquez met with her team in a conference room 500 feet underground. The room was carved from solid rock and lined with materials that blocked all forms of scanning from above. To any Imperial sensors, this location would appear to be empty Earth. "Zalkith is getting suspicious," Dr. Vasquez told the 12 humans sitting around the table. "She has been asking more questions and requesting site visits." Dr. James Chun nodded. "Our people on Research Station Beta 7 reported that she asked about the security footage. We may need to be more careful about our intelligence gathering. Have our modifications to Imperial computer systems been detected?" asked Dr. Sarah Martinez, who led the Cybernetics Division. "Not yet," replied Dr. Chun, "but we cannot be certain how long that will last. Every time we access their networks, there is a risk." Dr. Vasquez stood up and walked to a large display screen. It showed a map of the galaxy, with thousands of small dots marking human populations across Imperial space. "We are present on 843 worlds," she said. "Our underground facilities are operational on 612 of those worlds. Our enhanced humans are ready for activation on all major Imperial military bases and research stations." The dots on the map began to glow green as Dr. Vasquez spoke. The room was silent as everyone looked at the scope of their secret operation. "How much longer do we need?" asked Dr. Martinez. 6 months, Dr. Vasquez replied. "Maybe less. Our final preparations are almost complete. Once they are done, we can reveal ourselves safely." Dr. Chun leaned forward. And if the Empire discovers us before we are ready? Dr. Vasquez smiled, but her expression was not entirely friendly. Then, we moved to Phase 2 earlier than planned. Either way, humanity will be free soon. On Imperial Command Station Prime, Admiral Kexler received his weekly reports on human territories. Everything looked normal. Production quotas were being met or exceeded on all human worlds. There had been no security incidents, no rebellion attempts, and no requests for increased autonomy. The humans were model subjects. They worked hard, learned quickly, and caused no problems. Kexler was proud of how well the integration had gone. He had no idea that humans were now present in sensitive positions on every major Imperial facility in the galaxy. He did not know that human computer specialists had inserted hidden programs into Imperial networks across thousands of worlds. He did not know that human engineers had been secretly modifying Imperial equipment to include hidden capabilities. Most importantly, he did not know that the humans he thought were weak and primitive had unlocked genetic capabilities that would allow them to outfight, outthink, and outmaneuver any species in the Empire. The trap was nearly complete. Soon, the Empire would learn what humans could really do. The Imperial patrol ship Stellar Fang dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Research Facility Gamma 9. Captain Mordak had decided to make a surprise inspection of the human research station. His orders were to check that the humans were following proper safety protocols while studying basic Imperial technology. "Sir, we are detecting unusual energy readings from the facility," reported his sensor operator. Lieutenant QEX (NOL. Captain Mordak frowned. "What kind of energy readings?" "Unknown, sir. The patterns do not match anything in our database. Power levels are much higher than the facility should be producing." This was supposed to be a simple research station where humans study basic Imperial computers and communication equipment. It should not be producing any unusual energy signatures. "Take us in for a closer look," Captain Mordak ordered Dodd as the patrol ship approached the facility. Captain Mordak could see that something was very wrong. The building looked normal from the outside, but his sensors were showing massive underground structures that did not appear on any Imperial construction plans. "Sir, I am detecting movement inside the facility that is too fast for our sensors to track clearly," Lieutenant Kexenol reported, his voice nervous. "Too fast? What do you mean, too fast?" "The movement patterns suggest individuals moving at speeds of over 60 meters per second, sir. That is impossible for any known species without powered armor." Captain Mordak felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "Send an immediate alert to Imperial Command. Tell them we may have a security situation at Gamma 9. Before Lieutenant Kexenol could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered and went black for a moment. When they came back on, a human face was looking at them from the main display dot. It was Dr. James Chun, the facility director. He looked calm and was smiling politely. "Good afternoon, Captain Mordak," Dr. Chun said. "We were not expecting your visit today. How did you access our communication systems?" Captain Mordak demanded. "This is a military vessel with encrypted networks." "Oh, that," Dr. Chun said, as if it was not important. "We have been studying Imperial computer systems for some time now. They are quite interesting, though not as secure as you might think." Captain Mordak felt panic rising in his chest. No one should be able to hack Imperial military systems, especially not humans with primitive technology. "I am ordering an immediate inspection of your facility," he said, trying to sound in control. "Prepare to be boarded." "Of course," Dr. Chen replied. "Though I should warn you that what you see here might be somewhat surprising. We have been working on some advanced projects lately." Captain Mordak led a squad of 6 Imperial Marines to the research facility. They entered through the main airlock, weapons ready. The first floor looked exactly like it should. humans working at computer terminals, studying Imperial technology, taking notes and measurements. But as they moved deeper into the facility, strange things began to happen. A human technician walked past them carrying a piece of equipment that should have required 3 people to lift. The human was carrying it easily with one hand while reading from a tablet with the other. Another human researcher was working at a computer terminal, but her hands were moving so fast that Captain Mordak could barely see them. Data was scrolling across her screen faster than any organic mind should be able to process. "Dr. Chun," Captain Mordak called out, "I need to see your underground levels." "Certainly," Dr. Chun replied. He led them to an elevator that descended much deeper than the building plans indicated it should go. When the elevator doors opened, Captain Mordak and his Marines stepped into a vast underground complex that stretched out beyond what their eyes could see. The space was filled with technology that looked nothing like anything in the Imperial database. Humans were moving through the complex with impossible speed and grace. Some of them seemed to be manipulating energy with their bare hands, creating glowing patterns in the air. Others were working on machines that hummed with power levels that should have been dangerous to be near without protection. "What is this place?" Captain Mordak whispered. "This is Research Lab 7, Dr. Chun said calmly. "We have been developing some new technologies here. Nothing harmful, I assure you." One of the Imperial Marines raised his weapon toward a group of human researchers. Before he could fire, one of the humans moved faster than the Marine's eyes could track. The weapon was suddenly in the human's hand instead of the Marine's. "Please do not point weapons at our researchers," the human said politely, handing the weapon back to the shocked Marine. "We are peaceful people." Dr. Chun walked over to a control panel and touched several buttons. A holographic display appeared in the air, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. "Captain, I think it is time for us to have an honest conversation," Dr. Chun said. "You see, humanity has not been entirely truthful about our capabilities." The holographic display zoomed in to show the location of every Imperial military base, research station, and command center in the galaxy. Small blue dots appeared next to each location. The blue dots represent human personnel currently working at each facility, Dr. Chun explained. "As you can see, we are present at every major Imperial installation." Captain Mordak stared at the display in growing horror. There were thousands of blue dots. Humans were everywhere in the Empire. "How long has this been going on?" he asked. "Since about 6 months after you conquered Earth," Dr. Chun replied. "We have been very patient people. We wanted to understand your civilization before we revealed ourselves." "Revealed yourselves as what?" Dr. Chun smiled, but there was something in his eyes that made Captain Mordak step backwards. "As the species that is going to change how this galaxy works," Dr. Chun said simply. He touched another button on the control panel. Every screen and communication device in the Imperial patrol ship suddenly activated. Dr. Elena Vasquez appeared on all of them at once. "Admiral Kexter," she said, even though the Admiral was not present. "This is Dr. Vasquez. I believe we need to have a conversation about the future relationship between humanity and the Zephrian Empire." Captain Mordak grabbed his communication device. "Admiral! Admiral, we have a situation at Gamma 9. The humans have technology beyond anything we have seen. They have infiltrated our systems." His device went dead. All of his equipment stopped working. "Your ship is perfectly safe," Dr. Chun assured him. "We have simply disabled its weapons and communication systems temporarily. We are not violent people, Captain. We prefer to solve problems through discussion." Captain Mordak looked around at his Marines. They were all staring at the humans moving through the complex with superhuman speed and ability. Their training had not prepared them for anything like this. "What do you want from us?" Captain Mordak asked. "To talk," Dr. Chum replied. "After 50 years of studying your empire, we have some suggestions for how things could be better for everyone." On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Kexter watched in shock as every screen around him displayed Dr. Vasquez's calm face. "Hello, Admiral," she said. "I think it is time we discussed the real situation." Emperor Vexnal had ruled the Zephrian Empire for over 400 years. He had seen wars, rebellions, and countless threats to imperial power. Nothing had ever made him feel the cold fear that gripped him. Now, as he sat in the emergency council chamber, the holographic displays around the room showed the scope of human infiltration across the empire. Every major military base had human workers. Every research facility had human technicians. Every administrative center had human translators and assistants. For 50 years, humans had been everywhere in the empire, watching, learning, and preparing. How could our intelligence services miss this? Emperor Vexnal demanded, his four eyes blazing with fury and fear. General Dexver, the head of Imperial Military Intelligence, looked like he wanted to disappear. "Your Majesty, all reports indicated that humans were primitive and cooperative. They showed no signs of advanced technology or hostile intentions." "No signs?" The Emperor's voice rose to a roar. "They have been building underground facilities on hundreds of worlds. They have infiltrated our most secure installations. They have technology that can disable our most powerful warships with devices the size of communication tablets." The room fell silent. Everyone had seen the demonstration Dr. Vasquez had given. She had pointed a small device at the Imperial flagship Divine Wrath and completely shut down its engines, weapons, and life support systems. The ship's crew of 12,000 had been helpless until she chose to restore power. "What are their demands?" asked Chancellor Colmeth, the Empire's chief administrator. "Admiral." Kexter activated a recording device. Dr. Vasquez's voice filled the chamber. "We do not want to conquer the Empire," she had said during their conversation. "We want to improve it. For 3,000 years, the Empire has ruled through fear and force. We propose a different approach: cooperation between equal partners, shared technology for mutual benefit, and democratic representation for all member species." Emperor Vexnal laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "They want to destroy everything the Empire has built." "Your Majesty," Admiral Kexter said carefully, "they have the power to destroy everything the Empire has built. The fact that they are asking for negotiations instead of demanding surrender suggests that they truly do prefer peaceful solutions." The Emperor turned his attention to the tactical displays. Imperial fleets were spread across the galaxy, but many of their key vessels had human crew members in critical positions. Engineering departments, computer systems, communication networks, humans were integrated into every aspect of Imperial military operations. "Can't we remove all human personnel from our ships and bases?" the Emperor asked. General Vexver shook his head. "Not without crippling our operations, Your Majesty. Humans have become essential to too many systems. On some installations, they represent 40% of the technical staff." "Then we are trapped," the Emperor said quietly. The truth was even worse than he realized. Reports were flooding in from across the Empire as local commanders discovered the extent of human capabilities. On military base Zeta 12, human mechanics had demonstrated that they could repair damaged starships in hours instead of days. On Research Station Alpha 3, human scientists were showing Imperial researchers new technologies that were decades ahead of current Imperial science. Most disturbing of all, humans seemed genuinely uninterested in conquest or revenge. When Imperial officers demanded to know what humans really wanted, the answer was always the same. They wanted to help the Empire become better. Commander Zalkith stood before the Emergency Council to deliver her intelligence assessment. She'd have been studying human behavior for years, and now everything made terrible sense. "Your Majesty," she said, "I believe humans have been planning this reveal for the entire 50 years since conquest. Every action they have taken has been calculated to position them for maximum leverage with minimum violence." "Explain," the Emperor ordered. "They chose to surrender immediately when we first arrived at Earth. This prevented a destructive war and allowed them to study us while appearing harmless. They requested assignment to basic labor positions across the Empire. This gave them access to our technology and infrastructure. They asked many questions about our systems, which we interpreted as primitive curiosity rather than intelligence gathering. Zalkith activated a holographic display showing human population distribution across the Empire. Most importantly, they have positioned themselves as indispensable. Removing humans from Imperial operations would take years and would cripple our efficiency during the transition. They have made conquest of the Empire unnecessary by making the Empire dependent on them." The room was silent as the implications sank in. The humans had not conquered the Empire through force. They had conquered it through patience and intelligence. "There is more," Zalkith continued. "Our analysis of human genetic data shows that they have been operating at a tiny fraction of their actual capabilities. The enhanced speed, strength, and mental abilities we have observed appear to be minor improvements compared to what they could achieve if they chose to." Emperor Vexnal felt his fear deepen. "How much more powerful could they become?" "Unknown, Your Majesty. But our best estimates suggest that a fully enhanced human could be capable of fighting entire Imperial Marine squads single-handedly. Their cognitive enhancements could allow them to process information faster than our best computer systems." Across the galaxy, other Imperial leaders were reaching similar conclusions. On the fortress world of Crixtel, General Wormag discovered that human construction workers had built hidden facilities that could manufacture advanced weapons and equipment. The humans cheerfully gave him a tour, explaining how they could produce better military hardware than Imperial factories. On the administrative world of Velanaris, Governor Hextol learned that human clerks had been secretly maintaining backup copies of all Imperial government databases. They had access to every law, every regulation, and every classified document in the Empire. Reports continued to arrive at Imperial Command. Humans were revealing hidden capabilities on every world where they were present. But instead of using these capabilities to attack or threaten, they were using them to improve Imperial operations and solve long-standing problems. The most confusing aspect of the entire situation was that humans seemed to genuinely want what they said they wanted: a better, more fair empire where all species worked together as equals. Why? Emperor Vexnal asked during another emergency council session. Why do they want to help us? We conquered their world. We have used their people as laborers for 50 years. Why are they not seeking revenge? Dr. Vasquez answered that question herself during a direct communication with the Emperor. Your Majesty, she said, appearing on the main screen in the council chamber. Humanity learned long ago that revenge and conquest create cycles of violence that hurt everyone. We prefer to break those cycles and create something better. But you could destroy us, the Emperor said. Your technology is clearly superior to ours. Your people have capabilities we cannot match. Why not simply take over? Dr. Vasquez smiled. Because ruling through fear and force is exhausting and ultimately ineffective. We have studied your empire for 50 years. We have seen how much energy you spend controlling unwilling subjects, suppressing rebellions, and maintaining order through violence. We can show you a better way. The Emperor looked around at his advisors. They all wore expressions of confusion and fear. The Empire had been built on the principle that the strong rule the weak. The humans were clearly stronger, but they did not want to rule. "What guarantees do we have that you will not change your minds?" the Emperor asked. "The same guarantee you have always had," Dr. Vasquez replied. "None. The difference is that we are choosing cooperation because it works better for everyone, including us. We do not need to conquer you to be safe and prosperous." The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial leadership to grapple with a completely new reality. They had always assumed that any species with superior power would use it to dominate others. The humans were proving that assumption wrong, and it terrified them more than any military threat ever had. 6 months after the revelation, Admiral Kexter stood in the same conference room where he had first accepted humanity's surrender 50 years earlier. But this time, he was not the one dictating terms. The room had been redesigned as a joint command center where human and Zephrian officers worked side by side. The changes were small but significant, the intimidating. Imperial symbols had been replaced with displays showing cooperative projects across the galaxy. "Admiral," called out Dr. Elena Vasquez as she entered the room. She still looked like a simple teacher, but Kexter now knew that appearance was deceiving. "Thank you for meeting with me today." Kexter nodded respectfully. The transition period had been difficult for everyone, but especially for Imperial officers who had spent their careers believing in the superiority of Zephian military power. "The latest reports from the outer worlds are very positive," Dr. Vasquez said as she activated a holographic display. "The Calori system has increased mineral production by 60% since we introduced human mining techniques. The Velthan agricultural worlds are producing surplus food for the first time in decades." Kexter studied the data. Everything Dr. Vasquez said was true. Human cooperation had improved conditions across the Empire in ways he had never thought possible. "I still do not understand why you do this," he admitted. "Your people could have taken control of everything. Instead, you share your technology freely and ask for nothing in return." Dr. Vasquez smiled. "We ask for something very valuable in return, Admiral. We ask for peace, cooperation, and the chance to build something better than what came before." The transition had not been without challenges. Some Imperial hardliners had attempted a military coup 3 months after the revelation. General Morthic had tried to unite several Imperial fleets to attack human installations before humans could completely undermine Imperial authority. The coup attempt had lasted exactly 4 hours. Human technicians had already installed hidden modifications in Imperial starship systems across the galaxy. When the rebel fleets tried to attack, their weapons simply would not fire. Their engines stopped working. Their communication systems played recordings of Dr. Vasquez, calmly explaining why violence would not solve their problems. The rebel ships had drifted helplessly in space until loyal Imperial forces could arrest the conspirators. No one had been killed, but the demonstration of human technological superiority had ended any thoughts of military resistance. "How long have your people been capable of this level of technological control?" Kexter asked. "Since about year 2 of the occupation," Dr. Vasquez replied casually. "We needed time to study your systems and develop appropriate countermeasures. We also wanted to be sure we could disable your military capabilities without causing unnecessary casualties." Kexter felt a chill. Humans had been capable of completely neutralizing the Imperial military for nearly 50 years, but had chosen not to use that power until they were forced to reveal themselves. The implications were staggering. Humanity could have freed themselves at any time. They could have conquered the Empire decades ago. Instead, they had waited and planned and prepared for a peaceful transition that would benefit everyone. Emperor Vexnal had officially agreed to humanity's proposed reforms. After seeing the coup attempt fail so completely,
The imperial government had been restructured to include democratic representation for all member species. The harsh labor requirements that had oppressed many worlds for centuries had been replaced with voluntary cooperation agreements. Most surprisingly, many alien species that had been subjects of the Empire for generations were enthusiastically supporting the new system. The Altarians, who had been forced to provide military service for 300 years, now served as peacekeepers because they wanted to help maintain stability. The Kepler-Mayan colonies, which had operated under brutal conditions, now produced more resources than ever before because workers were treated fairly and given advanced human technology. "There is something I must ask," Kexter said. "My intelligence reports suggest that your people are still hiding capabilities that you have not revealed. How much more powerful are humans than what we have seen?" Dr. Vasquez was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was serious. "Admiral, human potential is practically unlimited when we choose to unlock it fully. We could modify ourselves to survive in the vacuum of space, to process information faster than quantum computers, to manipulate matter at the molecular level with our minds alone." Kexter stared at her. "Then why do you not do these things?" "Because power without wisdom is dangerous," Dr. Vasquez replied. "We have learned through our history that beings with unlimited capabilities often lose their connection to other forms of life. We prefer to remain fundamentally human while using our abilities to help others." She activated another display showing human colonies across the galaxy. "We could transform ourselves into beings of pure energy or create bodies that never age or die. But then we would no longer understand what it means to be mortal, to struggle, to grow, and to cooperate with others who are different from us." The conversation was interrupted by an alert from the communication system. Dr. James Chun appeared on the main screen from Research Station Gamma 9. "Elena, we have received a message from the Andromedan Contact Array," he said, his expression excited but concerned. Both Dr. Vasquez and Admiral Kexter turned their attention to the screen. The Andromedan Contact Array was a deep space monitoring system that watched for signs of intelligent life from other galaxies. "What kind of message?" Dr. Vasquez asked. "A transmission from what appears to be a galactic empire in the Andromeda Galaxy," Dr. Chun replied. "They claim to represent over 50,000 star systems. Their message is a demand for our galaxy to submit to their authority or face invasion." Admiral Kexter felt his old military instincts activate. "How long until they could reach us?" "Based on the transmission data, approximately 50 years if they use the fastest faster-than-light technology we know about," Dr. Chun said. "But Elena, there is something else. The message includes technical specifications of their military capabilities. Their technology appears to be significantly more advanced than anything in our galaxy, even our enhanced human technology." Dr. Vasquez nodded calmly. "Thank you, James. Please begin analysis of their technical data and prepare preliminary defense scenarios. Also, send a diplomatic response expressing our desire for peaceful contact and negotiation." After the communication ended, Admiral Kexter looked at Dr. Vasquez with new understanding. "This is why you revealed yourselves now," he said. "You knew about this threat." Dr. Vasquez shook her head. "We did not know about this specific threat, but we have always known that the galaxy would eventually face challenges that would require all species to work together. A divided galaxy where species fight each other cannot survive in a universe full of unknown dangers." She gestured toward the displays showing cooperative projects across the Empire. "We spent 50 years preparing not just to free humanity, but to unite the galaxy. When greater threats come from beyond our borders, we will face them together." Admiral Kexter understood now why humans had been so patient, so careful, so focused on cooperation rather than conquest. They had been thinking on timescales and about threats that no one else had considered. What happens now?
He asked. Dr. Vasquez smiled. Now, we continue building something better.
We have 50 years to prepare for contact with the Andromedans. That is enough time to unite not just our galaxy, but to develop the technology and wisdom necessary to meet them as equals rather than victims. She paused and looked directly at Admiral Kexter. The most important lesson humans learned during our development is that true strength comes not from the power to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when not to use that power. We will teach that lesson to the galaxy, and perhaps someday, we can teach it to the universe.
As Admiral Kexter left the meeting,
he reflected on how completely his understanding of strength and power had changed. The humans had possessed the ultimate weapon, restraint, and had used it to create something far more powerful than any empire built on fear. For the first time in his long military career, he felt optimistic about the future. The galaxy would face whatever came next, not as scattered, competing species, but as a unified civilization built on cooperation, wisdom, and the human understanding that the greatest victories were won without firing a shot.